Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the 11th episode of my Being Social. As you know, in Being Social, I try to bring inspirational personalities in my own opinion and in generally accepted opinions where we can chat with them, learn from them, and also have any queries in our mind. So please write in the comment box. We will get off to the guest. So our esteemed guest this evening is Apurva Arya. Apurva is the CEO, very young CEO of a global think tank on circular economy based out of Denmark, Copenhagen. And she had her early education in India, and she worked also in India for KPMG, for Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and she developed her interest on circular economy and happy to share with you that I just saw in her LinkedIn profile that she has also been our volunteer for almost 4 years when she was a young student in Delhi Center for Social and Management Solution. That's our not-for-profit organization. So, Apurva, welcome for this chat. With this brief introduction, um, please tell us about your journey, early education, and joining jobs in India, and then later becoming a globetrotter and a global phenomenon now at the very young age.
Well, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. I think it's an honor to be part of being social and having the opportunity to be able to inspire, hopefully, young people as well. Um, and yeah, a little bit about how it started, my journey. So, as you know, I've been born and brought up in Delhi, and I did my graduation in economics from the University of Delhi, Venki to be precise. And then I started working with KPMG. I was advising clients with risk management and so on for a couple of years before I ventured into the world of what I want to do after and what masters I want to do. So that was quite a journey, I would say, because initially I had thoughts on doing an MBA, the classic Indian dream of going to an Ivy League college and so on and so forth. But I think the scenario in the US was not very, how do you say, not very conducive at that time to be moving there, as I heard from a lot of my friends who were there. So then I moved towards looking at Europe and some European universities, and as I would have it, I'd still give my GMAT and everything, but I ended up not going for an MBA at all. And this was a time that I was working right after KPMG. I was doing a lot of international assignments, a lot of work with UNCTAD. So it's called the UN Trade and Environment now, and that's when I got introduced to the world of circular economy and decided that this is really something that I want to pour my energy into. It gave me that drive that okay, this is what I want to be able to do in life. I think when I was working with KPMG, for me it just felt like I was just making money, right? I didn't see the kind of impact my work I wanted to see with my work, or I wanted my work to have. I think that was the difference, and I think that's very important with everyone who's trying to find their place in the world and they're pursuing something, to be able to feel that okay, this is my purpose and this is what drives me, this is what motivates me to wake up in the morning. I think finding that is really, really hard. And people who are able to do it early on, I would say you've sorted a lot of your life already, because so far and so forth, it has been a lot of exploring and a lot of trying different things out. So for me, I think this is what I would always say. I think you should try as many things as you can possibly can. And yeah, but maybe I can talk a little bit more about work later. I'll stop here for now.
Thank you for that. Please tell us what exactly this circular economy mean, and its extent and scope, how, where it is today. Everyone is concerned about waste management, recycling, climate, environment, and all that.
Hmm.
So, first tell us about circular economy, and then your think tank, where you are the CEO, what all they do.
Well, circular economy is essentially an economic system where you're envisioning no waste at all, but more looking towards how are you going to build an economy in a way so have all the economic gains and growth and so on, and to make sure that there's as little waste as possible, which also means that you're able to optimize the resources that we have, whether it's within manufacturing, whether it's in within production of textiles or electronics or plastics. We're able to encompass or envision systems where we're able to take back as much as possible, so recover as much as possible of the material. So think of it as a material circularity, no matter what material you're thinking, and think of the whole economy as one. And I think what part of it is mostly thought of usually is that it's waste management. It's not waste management. It's about how do you design systems and processes and even the policy landscape that really thrives within this economic system of creating, growing, but not creating waste. Because as you know, human beings have come up with this concept of waste in a lot of cultures as well, in our culture, for instance, as well. We don't view a lot of things as waste. We try to make use of everything as for as long as possible, for as much as possible. And that's one of the key concepts within a circular economy, is that if you've actually produced something, if you're able to make use of it, the first use, what it was intended to do, for as long as possible, then you're anyways uh, able to extend the life of that product, and you're able to optimize the maximum use out of it. And it's the same for a lot of the systems and processes, and I'm also talking about like big processes and big systems. So in and if we talk about the management of these resources or recovery of these resources and materials, you'll need a system in place to be able to do that, right? And a very small example is waste management, in that sense, where we're able to recover everything from a household level to a manufacturing process, but the materials go back to its original use. And I think that's the complexity of a circular economy, and to be able to explain it. And so, what we do, we're a strategy and policy think tank on circular economy. We advise governments and businesses on circular economy strategies and policy. So, at a national level, for instance, you would need to have a national strategy in place on how to have different policies, whether we're looking at electronics or textiles or plastics, and how do you have a more, say, circular systems within this sphere. There's also a lot of trade that happens. There's a lot of finance that goes into the whole circular economy finance aspect of it. So there's different aspects of it that we kind of work within. And what we primarily do is we do a lot of research within these topics, and especially within the intersection of what circular economy policies in Europe will have, what kind of impact would they have in, say, other emerging economies. If you're thinking, electronics or textiles, we're living in a globalized world, and a lot of the manufacturing is happening in the global south. So a big part of our work is working within that intersection of European policies. So right now, for instance, I'll give you an example. Within electronics and cars and textiles, there's a policy coming up called the digital product passports, wherein you'll be able to track everything within the supply chain of a garment that's made, like this top, for instance, where it's made, who made it, what are the materials that went into it, where was it manufactured, where is it being sold, where is it being designed, and so on. So in order to be able to recover or make another exact same top or a similar top from the same material that it's made out of, it's going to be something that's going to be very interesting. Even though there are a lot of complexities when such policies come about, and I think our role is to make sure that when this transition happens, so in countries like Vietnam, in India, or in Cambodia, where all this manufacturing is happening, all the industry association, the government, they need help with what entails this policy, what entails what impact would it have on us, and how can we brace ourselves to kind of position ourselves in a way where we don't lose out on our manufacturing strengths, or our SMEs, or our small and medium enterprises that probably don't have that kind of capital, or they don't have that kind of resources to be able to comply with this sort of legislation. How can we support them? How can we support them better? So I think a lot of our work is based on research, and then a lot of capacity building that goes with this research. I hope I was able to explain a little bit about our work now.
Great, great. So, I know you speak quite a few languages, including Hindi, Kumauni, being being a Delhi-born and brought up, and Kumauni. Yes, also, you speak with fluency. You spoke at least when you were young, as we knew you. Now, many maybe European languages, maybe French, others. So, how many languages do you speak?
Right now, I can speak a little bit of Danish. I do, of course, speak Hindi. I can speak Kumaoni, even though I'm really shy. But I think I can converse well if I'm in Uttarakhand for sure. I was there for a while now, so I was able to practice my Kumaoni. But I think I can. And in school, as you remember, we studied German for a while. Even though now I feel like I don't remember much of it, but I'm able to understand a little bit. Yeah.
And not when Copenhagen, you don't speak language, local language of Denmark. What language do
Oh,
they speak?
Danish, yes, I can. It's the local language is Danish, and I can speak Danish a little bit, even though it's a very, very, very difficult language, I think.
Okay, one of our viewers, Shikha, she's saying, "Hello, Apurva. Thanks for clarifying the difference between circular economy and recycling economy." So, thank you, Shikha, for bringing out that comment. So, Apurva, now थोड़ा बताएंगे कि मतलब ये सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी में इंटरेस्ट आपका शुरू कहाँ से हुआ, कैसे हुई शुरुआत?
I think शुरुआत तब हुई जब I was working with UN Trade and Environment, or Ellen MacArthur Foundation wanted to work in India. They're a charity based out of the Isle of Wight, and they're the ones जिन्होंने circular economy की strategy European level में, European Commission में launch करी back in I think 2015, which was a big thing. And their mandate was that they wanted someone on the ground working in India to be able to do a strategy, or a 3 to 5 year strategy within circular economy in India, जहाँ पे उनका फोकस था एग्रीकल्चर, मोबिलिटी एंड व्हीकल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग। वो देखना चाहते थे कि इफ वी डू अ सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी सिनेरियो एंड अ बिजनेस एज यूजुअल सिनेरियो, तो व्हाट आर द इकोनॉमिक बेनिफिट्स ऑफ इट एंड द एनवायरमेंटल गेन्स एज वेल। तो आई थिंक वहाँ से शुरू हुआ सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी के बारे में जानना. इवन दो आई एम एन इकोनॉमिस्ट, लाइक आई थिंक रैपिंग माय हेड अराउंड the concept, because it's a theoretical concept, right? And back then there weren't a lot of practical weather policy, weather ऐसे मतलब हमें ही ढूंढना था. Even within the Indian policy landscape, we were trying to figure out, okay, which policies within these sectors, कौन सी अभी current policies kind of fall under this whole circular economy scenario, and can we have some policies that whether it's in within mobility, अगर आप कह रहे हो last mile connectivity मिले, सबको मिले, तो उसमें आप इन अ सिटी कॉन्टेक्स्ट क्या पॉलिसीज गवर्नमेंट ला सकती है टू इंश्योर दैट यू आर एबल टू यूज पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट, यू आर एबल टू यूज यू आर इंटीग्रेटिंग से साइकिल पाथ्स, और कोई इंसान अगर ए टू बी जा रहा है तो उसको कैसे आप पूरी कनेक्टिविटी दे रहे हैं विद द पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट इन अ सिटी कॉन्टेक्स्ट. तो बहुत सारी ऐसी चीज़ें हैं. लाइक आई थिंक आई ऑल्सो लर्न द फर्स्ट टाइम, इट वॉज क्वाइट चैलेंजिंग आई थिंक टू बी एबल टू एक्सप्लेन टू अ लॉट ऑफ द पॉलिसी मेकर्स, एंड वी वर प्राइमरीली वर्किंग विद पॉलिसी मेकर्स एंड फॉर्च्यून 500 कंपनीज. तो दो थे हमारे मेन स्टेक होल्डर्स ड्यूरिंग दिस टाइम. वी वर टॉकिंग टू पॉलिसी मेकर्स एंड वी वर टॉकिंग टू businesses. They were essentially Fortune 500 companies. They were much, much, much ahead in terms of what they were doing within that space. But at that time, बहुत से लोगों को पता ही नहीं था कि इसका मतलब क्या होता है. What do we mean by this? And what do we mean by it in a sectoral focus, or कि हर एक स्टेक होल्डर का रोल क्या है इसमें. अगर आई एम अ सिटीजन, आई एम अ बिजनेस, आई एम अ पॉलिसी मेकर, if it's academia, if it's civil society, उन लोगों का role क्या है within this sphere. And this was something that we were kind of learning and trying to wrap our head around then. तो एक तो I think it was something because I love challenges as like my inherent thing. I love challenging things. It gives me like something to look forward to. एक बार आप समझ जाओ कि क्या है सब कुछ, तो then it just gets boring, right? So for me, since I love challenges, I think I really liked working within the space to be able to get the buy-ins of policymakers or people at that those levels, those bureaucrats where they don't even want to listen for more than 10 seconds, 5 seconds. You've been there. Short attention spans, and so you had to be really quick to be able to tell them exactly what you wanted in 10 seconds, and to be able to give that. It's something that you'll also benefit out of. There's something for you, there's something for everyone in this, if we kind of explore this, right? So that's when the whole circular economy was introduced to me on my world. And like I said, it really circular economy at an intergovernmental level, at a governmental level, there's so many processes and there's so many things that also work within national policy landscape ke upar bhi, right? Like the UN system, there are these conventions, there are different things. तो मुझे लगा कि this is really something that at that level, even at that level, could change a lot of what's happening in the future, and what you could really build in the future as well. तो मुझे ये बड़ा interesting लगा from that perspective कि एक तो I am doing something that in a way changes the world or the way we do things, and I'm able to play a role in whether it's bringing out forward thinking, formulating forward thinking policies, or we're able to help support different countries in their transition, because every country is now, especially in the global south, they're in the cusp of growing and really developing a lot. So I think it's a very interesting time. It was even back then for India, for Europe, and अब भी. तो फिर मुझे लगा कि this is something that that is very interesting to delve into, and that's how I was, introduced into the world of circular economy, and I kind of stuck with it.
Thanks. As a use case, the viewers should get this guidance that accepting challenges in life is very important. Secondly, focus on new things and be forward thinking person, and the world is there for you to capture thereafter. Of course, the development of your own activities and your success, the path is not straight in a straight line graph. It's a zigzag, and just like development of the society. So keep trying, go through that zigzag. We have another viewer, Vikas Neelam, Vikas Neelam. I think it's Vikas Neelam. Dear Apurva, I'm watching a live session on circular economy, and I must say this is truly insightful and inspiring. Thank you for spreading awareness on such a critical subject. Dr. Nirmala Chandra. Okay, she's using someone else's account. Dr. Nirmal Chandra. So, yes, a very important concept. Apurva, also tell us which are the national governments, including India, and what kind of think tank support or the advisory you have been or consulting you have been doing briefly. I mean, just wanting to know how the national governments react to these novel concepts, and which are actually useful in practice also.
I think since 2020, we've been supporting a lot of governments, and I also want to start off by saying that working with a government is so difficult. It's really difficult, and it's driven by a lot of different mandates that different departments have, because especially within a circular economy, it's not just one ministry that we'd be working with. It's not just the Ministry of Environment. You'll have finance, and you'll have the ministry that's looking into, say, a particular focus within a country. A lot of the countries that we were working with, for instance, in Southeast Asia, their focus was tourism, their focus was textile. So you also want to be able to have those ministries involved from the very beginning of doing a national strategy. And how we help a government, just to give everyone a context of how it really works, is that we do like a baseline analysis of the economy, so to say, to kind of identify the key focus areas of that government, especially from the way of economic development, where their focus lies. And then we kind of do like, okay, we're going to devise like a strategy that looks into these three focus areas. It's going to be a 3 to 5 year timeline, and we'll start with doing some initial baseline researchers. Then we'll do some stakeholder consultation, so that involves a lot of different ministries and departments that you have to bring together to be able to work together with them. And so far we've worked with the government of Vietnam. We worked with the government of Angola. We actually also worked with Paraguay and Costa Rica. And a lot of the work that we also support governments with is with the UN agency that's in within that region and within that country, for instance. So, for instance, with UNDP in Costa Rica, or the UNEP, or the global, it's called the United Nations Environment Program. So a lot of our work is also indirectly helping these governments through the UN agencies that we're working with. And recently, And also I think it's been twofold. Initially a lot of governments wanted national strategies and roadmaps, and the countries that had a national strategy and a roadmap were looking for an implementation plan of that national strategy and roadmap. For instance, now with Vietnam, they were mandated by law to bring out a circular economy strategy. So it has changed a lot from governments trying to do this themselves and being or positioning themselves, being able to being able to you have these NDCs, you have these nationally driven commitments that they want to comply with, right? Uh, these strategies kind of position them in a way that, okay, this is what we've been doing to do these goals or achievement, and it depends on the different political parties within that government as well. So I see since the last, it's been more than like 13, 14 years now, so it's changed a lot. This example of government being mandated to by law actually to bring out a national circular economy strategy policy, and to government themselves being very forthcoming on, yeah, we want to do it ourselves, because this is we see a lot of value in having this sort of strategy in place for us. It gives us the direction we want to go in. So
Apurva, my understanding and impression about the circular economy implementation, even at a concept level,
mhm.
um, not with the same name, but I saw more of recycling and reuse of goods in the developing countries than in the developed countries. Developed countries, I basically saw waste to power generation was the only area I noticed them doing it. But maybe my wisdom is old, like my uh, age. So maybe things may have changed. So my impression about Europe and America both was that they didn't really focus on these things. The developing countries, because of their own needs, and some people got employment out of supplying the waste products, I mean reusable products to the manufacturers. They were doing it more. So, what is your take on this?
I mean, absolutely. Initially, like I said, in a lot of the emerging economies, we're already making the use of a resource if we are able to, right? Like if you can make money out of it, they'll ensure that it doesn't go to waste. And in a lot of the globalized economies, this was a pattern, right? Like they were already building incinerators. A lot of money was being pumped into incinerators so that we can do a waste to energy plant, or you can do this and that, right? But with when circular economy in the when it came out in the European Commission as well, and there was a lot of discussion around design, and a lot of discussion around problematic use of plastics, the way we do it, like a lot of, say, plastics or even clothes, or the way we design, say, phones, right? They're not designed to be disassembled, they're not designed to be able to recover materials, and a lot of that can only come about if you incentivize producers, or you incentivize different designers at the design stage of when these products are being made, right? So there are now a lot of countries that have, within, say, an extended producer responsibility, which is a policy mechanism, which basically means that a producer who's produced a good in any country would be responsible for the environmental sound management at the end of life of this product. So what happens in this case is that you're trying to incentivize, or the government is trying to incentivize, what happens if you're able to give someone some sort of incentive at the design stage of making a product, say making a phone. Now there are modular phones within the built environment in construction, because construction and is also like an area which is really very wasteful in that sense, especially both during construction but also the construction demolition part of it. So I think even then, now there are a lot of policies that talk about, we're gonna incentivize which material you choose, how it's designed, how can it have modular materials that can say be easily recovered and removed. And if it's a different kind of material, I'll give you an example within plastics. If you have five different kind of plastics, then there is nothing you can do with that plastic. You'll need to burn it. If it's not a mono material, it's not made of one kind of material, you're not able to take out that material at the end of life, put it back where it came from, and make a similar product. You'll either need to downgrade that product, or you'll upcycle that product, which still means that it's not circular, which still means that it's wasteful, right? If we're not able to even within plastics, you have a PP thing, you have LDP, you have HDPE. If it's all these different kind of materials, even in a milk carton, right? And we've done a few projects where we were trying to have some chemical recycling in place to make sure that there's food, since it's food grade stuff involved. There's aluminum backing within it. There's different layers of paper, metal, and so on. Then you can't really do anything about it, and that's when the incinerators and this kind of stuff comes in. Because if we keep designing these things that are not meant to be recovered or disassembled, they will need to either be landfilled or incinerated. There are no two ways around it. And since the whole waste problem, and we see it in a lot of emerging economies, especially when you have all these landfills in the outskirts of cities, they are a huge problem. Because what do you do with all this? And then the implication of when you do something like this, of a chemical recycling, or you even trying to recycle this, a landfill becomes like a way of all these chemicals, hazardous chemicals, being leached into the environment, both air, soil, and it's a hazard for the people working within those in those landfills as well. So it's a huge problem. And which is why a lot of governments and a lot of countries have now moved to talking about, we need to really eliminate like things that cannot be recycled or even recovered. If you're not able to do it, you should really eliminate it out of the system. There's no use of it to be produced, for instance.
Where you've been coordinating lead author for the seventh Global Environmental Framework for quite some time with the UNEP.
Hmm.
And two things I wanted to know: what exactly you do in this global environment outlook, and the secondly, has UNEP developed any convention to be followed by member countries in this area, in the areas of circular economy, or if they do intend to do it, because international law is only acceptable by courtesy. It cannot mandate anything. So normally UN organizations, they develop conventions or some guidance or advisory. It is then it becomes subject to implementation by the members. For example, if you are using incinerators for medical waste,
Hmm.
it is very expensive to set up a incinerator.
Hmm.
It is hazardous to leave it or merge it with something else. But the smaller countries with little budget and their economic status, they tend to ignore those things because the cost of it they feel is very high. So, would you please tell us something on these lines?
Yes, absolutely. So the seventh Global Environment Outlook is an assessment of the state of the environment. It's if the audience knows, those IPCC reports, the one that the International Panel on Climate Change brings about. This is the flagship report of the United Nations Environment Program, which assesses the state of the environment. It takes 5 years. It's a global assessment. It brings about, scientific. Scientist, and it's more about how can you make these science-based assessments on policy. And I am the coordinating lead author for circularity. It's one of the systems chapter within this publication that's going to be looking into systems transformation. This geo is going to be the most interesting one, or at least a different one from the last ones, because it talks about concrete solutions on how can you transform the energy, the economic, finance system, the environmental systems, the circularity system, and really achieve both the climate goals, but also the different goals, whether it's access to energy for all, and whether it's food security. Also looks into the food systems, right? So so it's quite an extensive and quite an intense process so far that I've been part of. So there's all these authors meeting that happen all around the world, wherein we discuss both within the context of what's happening between land, air, water, like the whole thing, and then talk about like different systems and how would you transform it. And we have a very celebrated, decorated chair this time. His name is Sir Bob Watson, and he was uh, he was a chief scientist for the White House, and he's been the chair for the IPBES as well, which is another publication that is done for the biodiversity one. And um, and uh, so within circularity, for instance, we have really tried to have different timelines for different policymakers on how do you really transform the economics and finance of things. And I think that's the key to really unlocking a lot of the problematic things, like you rightly said, right? Like if a lot of countries, a lot of governments, a lot of policies driven by costs or cost of things. But what really happens when you're not internalizing the externalities and they're not factored into cost is that you're able to buy a T-shirt for $3, for $4, when it's planted from a seed, it's grown, it's sown, it's harvested, it's produced, it's designed, and we're still paying $4 for it when it's being made in Vietnam or in Cambodia or in India, which is insane because it cannot, the cost of that good is not $5 for sure. And that's one of the main reasons that either we're using really cheap materials, we're not paying people enough, the labor enough. And then the bigger question is, then how do you transform this? How do you make sure that the cost of goods actually factors in all this cost of the labor, the environment, the materials that we use, the materials that go in, the transport that happens, the shipping that happens, the all the fast fashion, for instance, that we have in the world, right? There are a lot of policies that are trying to do a crackdown on Shine and all these brands, for the Zalandos and so on and so forth, because we're selling a lot for very cheap, and that's the economies of scale thing that we've been the way that we've been growing and the way that we've been building is has been like this. And to be able to really transform it would require a lot of money or a lot of capital being pumped into the right materials, the right processes. Now there's trillions of dollars of money right now that goes into these linear processes. By linear processes, I mean, when you're producing something like a $4 Zara t-shirt somewhere in the world. And we're not putting in as much capital to say slow mindful. We have artisans in India that don't get paid as much as they should. The cotton that we grow, or it doesn't purview that sort of money. Now there are different, there's hemp and there's whatnot that's coming up. There's lyocell, the new materials and fabric that have been designed and innovated, and so on and so forth. And they haven't achieved that economies of scale yet to be able to compete with a poorly manufactured polyester fabric. Right? So, and that's the bigger question we're trying to both answer in the sense of, then how do you, and there's a lot of things linked to it. There's finance, there's trade, there's the whole essence of, then what policies do policymakers need to have in place, both at the design stage and the end of life stage. How do we cover policies within the whole plethora of things, and what are the timelines to it? Because for every country, it's going to look very different, right? A country like Denmark has a very different need, or what do you call, a very different landscape that would of policies that would work for Denmark, as opposed to something that would work in Delhi or in India or in Cambodia. So that's also really important in terms of messaging for policymakers, because there are some things that are going to be the things that you can't avoid, like you said. Like there's when there's medical grade or food grade things, a lot of legislation will not let that happen anyways. Like that'll need to happen until and unless there's something where we're able to have, say, the right bioplastics in place that will probably not biodegrade within the natural environment, but maybe in a chemical composition in some sound way, whatever. But what I'm trying to say is that the within this assessment, this is what we're trying to kind of do. Like, how can policymakers, for instance, within this whole plethora of timeline of different countries being in different phases of economic growth, how can you ensure that they still grow and build in that sense, where uh, it doesn't following the principles of circular economy uh, benefits them. Like they're able to capture the economic benefits of it, as well as may ensure like all the environmental gains are also there. Because what we mostly see is that you'll have an oil spill, then you'll spend billions of dollars to fix it, and that's not something that we factor in before when we're when we're manufacturing or when we're doing this, and that's what we're essentially trying to do. And I think you mentioned about some of the conventions. There's nothing right now as a convention for a circular economy. There have been talks of having a international materials agency, similar to an international energy agency, because there's a lot of say research and a lot of other work. Like right now, you cannot imagine the world without an international energy agency, right? Uh, and it's similar for this as well. There are some conventions, for instance, that have newly come up. There's a global framework on chemicals that has come up, that is looking into how do you eliminate hazardous chemicals from different processes. You have all these forever chemicals in construction, in textiles. There's stuff like PFAS that makes your clothing, say, waterproof, windproof, or the Gore-Tex layering, and so on and so forth. So how do you ensure that the ones that are really problematic, we kind of eliminate them? So that's a framework that was, I think, in 2024, September 2024, it was adopted, and it's only been a year to implementation. When I was in India recently, I ran a panel with the Indian Chemical uh, agent, ICC. It's Indian Chemical Conclave, I think. And the very interesting thing was, like, usually industry and associations, they are pretty far ahead when it comes to innovation, or say sustainable chemistry, when they were working within this sphere. And it was mostly the policymakers, who are very like, oh, we need to make sure that the industry is also on board with it. Like, it becomes like a thing of like, are we supporting our industry, or are we just following a convention just because it's been adopted? And it becomes something like that. And I always think that if you're uh, e- I'm from India, right? And what I really think is, like, we don't have to replicate the wrong, or the things that were incorrectly done in the West. I think we can just learn from it. And a lot of the effects of, say, chemicals, or bleaching of plastics and so on, it's something that's gonna affect us. And somehow, sometimes, a lot of it becomes like, we're not going to follow other. It becomes like a ego thing more than a practical thing around, like, okay, like, it's going to affect us, it's going to affect everyone. Uh, it's something that we need to address before it becomes a problem, right? Like, we shouldn't think of it as like we'll deal with it uh, when we'll have a problem. We should deal with it now, especially these things like chemicals and leaching of things. That now there are so many studies on nanoplastics and microplastics being everywhere. And so it's not something that's people are just saying. It's a science based thing, and I think we should brace ourselves for it and prepare ourselves better.
Thank you, Apurva. You have the cross section of experiences, cross country, national governments, global institutions, global organizations, and your own consulting beyond that. So, what have been your key learnings or experiences so far, which you think everybody should emulate, whether the individual or the society or the countries or the global village?
I think building your own company to begin with, or trying to do something that hasn't been done. I mean, I never had an example of anyone building a strategy and policy think tank around me, right? I had never heard anyone do it. I had never even seen that in practice. And it was something that I kind of did while doing a lot of other things, right? Um, I just knew I wanted to do something myself, and I wanted to be able to um, have the kind of impact my work could have in, like, different levels. Like, already when I was working, I saw that I worked at a very high level, but it wasn't at the ground level. A lot of the implementation happens in ground at the ground, right? Like, you can be out there, do these global assessments and so on, but there's a whole reality of what really happens at a national country level, what happens at a municipality level, what really works, what doesn't, and what do those different players need to implement something. And I think one thing that I learned was, a, you should just keep on moving forward. You should keep on going ahead. You shouldn't like, of course, reflect and learn stuff, but I think if you keep moving forward and you keep trying to just learn and grow, you'll figure it out. I think that's one thing that I've learned. And I think the second thing that I really, since I've worked in like very different settings now, having worked in the corporate world, in within policy, with policymakers, building my own think tank in a foreign country now, with a completely different cultural, local context, right? I think what I've learned is, by the end of it, we're all human beings, and ha- to being able to build that relationship of trust, that is the most important thing. To be able to be honest about your work, and to be able to bring in your most. And I think this is something that I've actually learned from my parents, both of my parents. They are very, very hardworking, and they want to be the best at what they're doing. And if you bring that across to anyone you're working with, no matter who it is, they see that. They see that, the honestness, and they see that hard work. And I think, and then it's just builds that trust. And I've realized that over so long, that it's not, you could be the best at whatever you are able to do, but if you don't understand people, it's not going to get you very far, or it's going to be very challenging for you, for sure. I think, to be able to understand people, and to be able to have that human connection with them, is super important for you to be able to navigate in the world, for sure. And I think, finally, I definitely think there are days when you're always like, you don't feel motivated, and you don't feel, you're down in the dumps, or things don't go the way that you want to. And then at that point, you just need to trust yourself, and be able to be like, it's going to be a new day tomorrow. This is not like forever. Like, you're either not going to feel like this, or things are not always going to be the same, right? So, not dwelling too much into it is also something that I would say I've learned, that there's no point of doing it. You'll just be wasting your precious time.
Thank you. Very important ones. Let me try and repeat those. The first ones he's saying is, you don't have to follow or walk the beaten path. You should make your own path if you want to do better things in life and pursue your passion and goal. As he also said, people are very important. Hard work is very important. Being earnest and honest is very important, and understanding difficult times as the passing times is important. Uh, shall I mention two, three of my lines on that? जो
Yes.
जैसे लास्ट में, आज दिन ढल गया तो क्या, कल फिर नया दिन निकलेगा, रात काली है तो क्या, कल फिर सुबह का उजाला होगा. This is for the testing times, and if you want to know more about it, follow my feature film Apna Akash, one of the songs from there. Okay, Apurva, so many useful things we have heard from you. So now I want to ask you, what have been the recognitions to you so far, and what kind of course, you have been working with all global organizations, part of global think tank, global forums, talking to bilateral and multilateral seminars and all that. So, what have been your recognition and awards, any beyond today's conversation of mine?
So I think, when I was building Circular Innovation Lab, I did a bunch of things, right? So there I got some entrepreneur awards from the Danish Innovation. ecosystem. It was called the micro grant, and it was around, I don't know, 50,000 Danish crowns or something, and some support on from them to build like a pilot of what we were building then. And I think apart from that, I got like nominated so many times for the sustainable startup and a lot of these kind of awards. Also became part of these accelerators from the Copenhagen School of Entrepreneurship and so on and so forth. And I think besides this, quite recently, actually, from the government of Vietnam, we got like this letter of recognition that we played an instrumental role in helping them with bringing out the national circular economy strategy. I think that was really something that was super special. And even with the coordinating lead author, I'm one of the youngest coordinating lead author for such an assessment. So I think that was also a big achievement for me in that sense. And I think one of the things um, that we did a couple of years back, we did a report for UNDP Costa Rica where uh, we um, we advised the government on bringing out a legislation which was tabled in the parliament, and that was also something that I always count as something that is an achievement for me, because if you're actually setting out to change for formulate policies, and it's adopted by governments, and it's tabled by governments, so that's something that really says that okay, you've done something that you set out to do, that that worked. So yeah, I think those are the things.
between ऑडियंस रिएक्शन लेनू पे आप जरा Satish Pant, Dr. Satish Pant, he's logged in from the US right now. He's in the US. He's saying excellent conversation. Professor Chandrasekhar Pant is saying, hello Apurva, nice to know that you are doing many good things in life. On a lighter note, do you miss Delhi? And finally, Shikha is asking you, in the light of benefits and environmental impacts of a circular economy, how can individuals and communities play a role in promoting and contributing to this concept? Of course, it's a bigger issue, but briefly, if you can.
I think I can start by saying, first of all, to the first question, thank you so much for listening in and for your kind words. And to Uncle, with the next question, thank you so much as well. And I just came back from Delhi. So right now I'm not missing Delhi at all. I I was there for quite a while this time. So and I keep on, and I'm traveling back and forth to Delhi all the time. So it's all good. And finally, to the last question, I think at an individual level, there are so many things that one can do, and I can start by saying that it's about all the small choices that we make, right? Whether it's you going as this thing going back to what we were doing before, using soap, using as less plastic as we can, to make sure that we're not creating demand for this product. I'm not saying that don't use it if it's something, but moving away from the convenience culture, for instance, as individuals, to make choices. What we used to do before, we used to carry a cloth bag or any bag to buy vegetables, and not order in. Blinkit is the new fad in Delhi, for instance, and I get it, I understand it, but there's a lot that we can do as well if we just make some more healthy choices, even for us, whether it's walking and buying the vegetables from our local vegetable person. And I think within a community, if you're able to say, even collect the garden, the household waste, like all the peels, the onion peels, and all the vegetable waste that you have, and just make sure that we can put it in a manure thing behind if you have. And if you live in a society, this is something that you can do within the society as one as well, right? So because this is not something that the government's providing here, unfortunately. In India, we only have the Gila and the Sukha Kura, which makes no sense to me at all. I don't even know why this was put across as a thing. And then, of course, then there's other things. It's around what kind of mobile you want to buy, to what kind of clothes you choose to buy, like how are you following a more conscious way of building a wardrobe, or you just doing like a fad thing, you wear something and dispose of it the next time. I think just thinking about these things and making those kind of choices would definitely there's a lot that individuals can do at that level to be able to be more circular, I would say.
Thank you, Apurva. We have reached towards the end of it. Now, the five reflex questions. Without thinking, you must answer. There
All right,
is no right and wrong, but we will try and know something. What is your preferred continent, Europe or Asia?
that's a
Don't
tough
think.
one. Both, both, both.
Okay.
I can't choose one.
Okay. Another tougher one is public policy or global policy framework.
Ugh, both. I mean, we can't have one, right? Like,
Okay. Work from home or globe trotting? I know you have been globe trotting and it's quite tiring
now
sometimes.
I want to work from home. I'm sick of traveling. I've been traveling like, I don't know, in like a crazy person. I want to be in one place. So work
The
from
next,
home.
the next few questions are based on recent developments. Global economy or national economy?
Hmm. I think global economy.
Okay. The final one is in news. Free trade or more tariffs?
A good mix of both.
Okay. Thank you, Apurva, for finding time and talking to us. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, next episode on 11th June with Mr. K. Mohandas, Indian Administrative Service Officer of 1976 batch. And in the meanwhile, keep watching, keep sharing and liking our live conversations. The same link with which you joined, it can one can watch the recording one also in our YouTube channel. And finally, if you want to know the women specific or society specific views of Apurva, 20 or 25 years, not 20, 15 years or so, 25 at least, totally. Maybe 12 years back, we in the same channel, you will find my conversation with her. That time we were focusing more on women and women specific, conversation. Thank you, Apurva, and keep shining. Do well. All the best.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me and this fantastic conversation. It was amazing.
Say half a sentence in Kumaoni also for our Kumaoni viewers.
मुझे बहुत ही भल लगो.
Okay. Thank you, Jira.
Bye. See you.